Hello, friends, and you're listening to the Catholic Grief Coach podcast. So, this episode, we're going to talk about the relationships, and maybe after the person died, or when they died, you weren't at a good place. So, welcome, friends. My name is Nicole Haugen, as you heard, and I am your Catholic Grief Coach. So, I was coaching somebody the other day, and it was her husband who had passed away. And so she was talking about the guilt that she was carrying because their relationship wasn't that great of a relationship. And at the time too, when he passed, she was left with a lot of paperwork and a lot of things to handle, and this added to some of her frustration, maybe some anger towards him. And so now that I think it was like a year or two later, the guilt is starting to come in of oh, when he died, I was just so upset and so angry. And first and foremost, I just want to say, of course you were angry, or upset, or frustrated, or felt like, oh, he left me with all this stuff. Because that is partly true, right? Like, there were things that you were left with that you were caught off guard with. So, it's not a bad thing that you had the human response to be upset, to be angry, to be frustrated, right? All of those things are perfectly natural. Now, what we do with them is kind of the next part, right? Because we don't want to hold on to that anger. We don't want to be like super frustrated all the time. And she's kind of at the point now where she's like, "Oh, I just feel so guilty that I even felt that way." And so it's like, okay, these are all emotions, right? And emotions are not good or bad. They're just, we have a first response kind of that our body gives off, right? So your first response was like, I'm super upset with him. I'm angry. Can't believe he left me with all these things to deal with. And now you're telling yourself, you're shaming yourself, you're guilting yourself, saying, well, I shouldn't have felt that way, right? Like he was still my husband, which is not true. I think you should have felt that way. That's a natural, again, a natural, normal human response. Now, saying that, you don't want to keep holding on to the guilt and shame, which I feel like is kind of where a lot of people in their grief get stuck, right? We either get stuck in that first part of like angry, frustrated, overwhelmed, or we get stuck in the next part where we feel guilt and shame. So, I want to talk about the guilt and the shame part of it today. When we feel guilt and shame, that does not come from God, right? Like that's different than our conscience when we're like, okay, yeah, you sinned, you did something wrong. But the best I could tell in this situation, like she hadn't done anything wrong, right? She wasn't like going to people, like smearing his name. She wasn't like doing anything like that. She just had feelings about it, okay? And if you want clarity on this, again, I'm not a priest. So if you ever are like, I don't know, I feel like I might have sinned because in my anger, I did this a wrong thing, right? It was sin. And so I'm going to bring it to confession. Okay. So that I would recommend is like step number one. If you're just like, I just want to make sure that I have a clean conscience, I don't want to sin in this, I would bring it to your priest, I'd bring it to confession to ask the Lord to be like, hey, Lord, like I was really hurting during that time and I'm sorry. Like I didn't mean to sin if you did. Okay. The second part is knowing that again, the guilt and the shame that often comes, it always comes, right? Somewhere along the line in the grief kind of journey that you're on. There may be maybe guilt and shame of like, oh my gosh, if we would have caught this illness sooner, if we would have noticed the signs of this, if this would have happened, right? Like, but that is the part that if we hold on to that, if we get stuck in that, that is the part that doesn't serve us. Because the reality is, whatever happened, happened. And God allowed it to happen because He allowed it. right? Like we know that if it wouldn't have been allowed, like God would have intervened somehow, okay? So I know that I'm not explaining that quite correctly and like eloquently and magnificently, but I do know like we get stuck in a lot of times the shoulds when part of questioning things and saying this shouldn't have happened is then saying like I don't trust God, right? Like there's a tiny part of us that's like God shouldn't have allowed this to happen and therefore whatever. Okay? So when we say this shouldn't have happened, it did happen because God allowed it to happen. I don't know the whys, I don't know the ins and outs. God allowed it to happen for some greater glory that He's bringing down the road if we allow it, okay? And if we're stuck in our guilt and shame, that is not us turning to God. That is not us saying, hey, Lord, like, I'm really struggling with this guilt right now. Like, please help me with this guilt, right? And that is the part where we offer it up to the Lord. When we offer up our sufferings, we're turning to Him, not away from Him, saying, well, this shouldn't have happened, and I should have done this differently, and I should have treated this person nicer, and why didn't you do that? That does not come from God, okay? Anything that does not sound loving or gentle, because even in our sin, right? God so lovingly, gently, I'm making up words, gently calls us back to Him. Okay? His voice is never guilt, shameful. His voice is always peace, calming. We feel that nudge of like, okay, Lord, like I'm really struggling with the guilt. I know it doesn't come from you. I know it doesn't come from you. But in my humanness, in my brokenness, I feel so much guilt and shame of the relationship, where it was at, the thoughts I had afterwards. Okay, so bring it to Him. And again, the best place is in confession because, again, this is a Catholic channel. So we talk about confession here. Now, what do we do about that? And how do we mend that, right? Because the person's no longer here. But part of our Catholic faith is we know that the soul is forever, right? Like just because our human body is no longer alive, working well, we know that their soul is forever. And so a relationship is what you make it in your mind. A relationship can be stronger even if the person has died. Okay. So part of that may be you might want to write a letter to that person saying, hey, I'm really angry, I'm upset, get all the hurts out, right? And then bring it to God. Like, okay, God, I'm going to give you this letter. Maybe you want to burn it. Maybe you want to, I don't know, bury it. Maybe you just want to rip it up. But just be like, okay, I'm gonna release all of that. And from now on forward, like the relationship with this person, we're gonna start clean. I want to think good thoughts about them. And the other ones will occasionally slip in because again, we're human. But just to go back and say, like, you know what? No, like I really love them. I respected them because of this, right? And our brain wants to throw in all the things that they maybe did wrong and bad and the things that anger us again, but just keep coming back. Okay, okay, I'm gonna allow that anger. It's okay to feel angry, but remember, like, I want to build this relationship up. And a relationship with somebody is the thoughts we have about the person. So I want to choose to believe that they meant well. And yeah, they had their flaws, but I really did love them. I really do miss them. I'm sad that they're not here. Okay. And I recently saw, I don't remember who said it, but it was so golden because I can't remember if it was, I don't know if it was Scott Hahn. I don't think it was him. They're like, the relationship doesn't end just because the person has died. In fact, it can get better because they can't argue back. And I thought that was just like classic, right? Just classic, where it's like, again, a relationship are the thoughts you have about a person. And so think of like somebody who you're like, yeah, I don't get along with them. Well, it's because your thoughts are like, I can't stand them. They're gossipy, they're rude. I mean, whatever it is, right? Because those are your thoughts about them. You don't have a good relationship with them. But the people that you love, like your friends, your family that you love, you're like, they're amazing. I love to spend time with them. Oh my gosh, they're so funny, right? Like, so all a relationship is our thoughts about the person. So we can continue relationships even after a person has died because we continue our thoughts about them. So, that being said, I hope that this was helpful for those of you who are in that guilt, shame time of grief. And I hope that it brings you a little bit of peace knowing that you're not doing anything wrong because you have those feelings, but we also don't want to get stuck in those feelings. And as always, we want to bring them to God so He can heal us in our grief. So, thank you for being here, friends. I just want to put out my next grief group is going to start November 7th. And also, I am going to open up a couple slots for one-on-one coaching over Zoom, if that's something you're interested in. Otherwise, I do have the Voxer app, which is a walkie-talkie app where basically you just talk into your phone and I talk back to you. It's like a walkie-talkie, right? So it is really amazing. I like that one. I have had clients like really love that one because it gets you help in real time. Again, the one-on-one over Zoom is amazing as well because it gives you a real person to talk to. I also, again, with the Voxer, it is in real time. You don't have to wait till the next week or the next 2 weeks for your appointment, right? Like it gives you help in real time. So, next grief group starts November 7th. Um, look for details on that on my website. And again, sign up for Voxer coaching or the one-on-one coaching, whatever area of life you are at. I want to help you through. And I know right now AI is a really big thing. Everybody's using it, which is amazing. I think AI is great, right? Like it is so helpful for so many things. But if you want to talk to a real person who gives you real compassion, then I invite you to go to catholicgriefcoach.com to sign up for the help that you need. So, all right, you guys, I will be praying for you. And until next time, God bless.